Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Man, I love to travel, especially in this truck, but my recurring nightmare, which has happened to me before, is being stranded by the side of the road.
Great! That's just great, man! Now what the f are we supposed to do?
You can't go anywhere, and you've called for help, and you might have to wait hours for them to come rescue you. And it could be something as simple as just not having enough air in a tire.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 different solutions on how you can rescue yourself if you need something as simple as needing to air up a tire. Here's the 3 solutions that we're going to look at through this test. Number 1 is the universal Chinese air compressor. You'll see what that is in a minute. Number 2 is a portable shop air compressor. And number 3 is the Lasfit cordless tire inflator, one of the new generations of these tools. So we're going to use a test subject. I'm going to remove the spare from underneath the truck bed and air it down to 20 pounds. And then what we're going to see, can the compressor restore the pressure to 35 PSI, first of all? And then number 2, if it can, how long does it take? Here is solution number 1, which is what I call the UCAC, or the Universal Chinese Air Compressor. I know you've got one of these. You can't get out of Walmart without picking one of these up, because surely somebody in the family could use something like this, or you'd hate to think of little Johnny being stuck on the side of the road without being able to air up a tire. I've been carrying one of these in my truck for the past 2 years, and before that, I think I've been carrying one of these in the family van for probably the last 15 years, and luckily I've never had to use one. Now here is the universal Chinese air compressor that I've been carrying around for the better part of 2 decades. So let's plug it in, let's see how it operates. Here's the pump running off of 12 volts. It's running about 5 amps or so, especially when I put it under load. So it should be able to be run off of the truck in the cigarette lighter plug. Now let's run it through our grueling test regimen. So I've got the original tire down to 20 pounds, and I'm going to hook up the compressor, and we'll regularly check and make sure that we're not running over 35 pounds. But the problem is, every time I would check it, I got about the same reading, about 20 pounds. So I did this for the better part of 5 minutes, and at no time during this test did the pressure go above 20 pounds. This did not work. And here's the results for our first candidate. My universal Chinese air compressor did not inflate my tire. If you're carrying around one of these in your truck just in case, you might want to test it out as soon as possible. I drove around with one of these for the past 15 years, an absolute blissful delusion. The only place I was going to find out that it was useless was on the side of the road when and where I most needed it. So let's overcompensate through complete overkill with our second candidate, which is a small husky 1.5 horsepower 3-gallon air compressor. This is a typical job site portable air compressor which runs off 110 volts. And we're going to power this compressor through the Pro Power Onboard in my truck bed. The unit weighs about 28 pounds, so let's see how this solution works out for us. I've cranked up the truck and I've just turned on Pro Power Onboard. You can see that I've 20 PSI in this tire. So I'm going to fire up the compressor and start inflating the tire. The hardest part about this whole process is I have to periodically check the pressure on the tire, make sure I'm not overinflating it. There we go, there's 35 pounds. This solution took about 1 minute and 20 seconds to air the tire up from 20 to 35 PSI, and half the time was me sticking the gauge on the Schrader valve just to see what the pressure was. Obviously a superior solution to the universal Chinese air compressor, but are you going to go to the extreme step of lugging around a bulky air compressor just in case? Maybe our third candidate is what we need. And that third solution is the Lasfit cordless tire inflator, which is meant for pickup trucks, large SUVs, and cars. Now, the folks at Lasfit sent me a demo unit so I can trial this for you. Let's do a quick unboxing. All right, let's check out this Lasfit air compressor. So it comes in this nice little unit. And here is the unit itself. So this is a self-contained unit. It's quite well made. And it looks like it's pretty durable. You can knock it around and looks like it's going to work out okay. Let's see what's inside of the kit here. It's a number of things. So this is obviously the 12-volt power supply connection to the cigarette lighter that we have. So this is how to power the unit, although there is a battery inside of here. So you could charge this separately, or you can run this directly off the battery if it's not charged. Here is going to be a couple of the air cords for this. So I assume you're going to just plug them in like this, like so. And then there's your inflation right into a Schrader valve. So pretty nice. And then here's how to charge it through a USB port. So there's USB-C, which is nice. So we can plug that straight into the truck and keep it charged. Some of the other adapters that are on here. There's even some adapters if you want to blow up something like a sleeping bag or a basketball, football, something like that. So this is pretty much a portable tire inflator. So it's got a battery included with this. And what I'm hoping is that we'll be able to do at least 4 tires with one charge on here. Not that you would ever have 4 tires go low, but you never know. Like maybe if you're out at the beach and you're running your tire pressure low for being on the beach and you need to inflate them later on, you'd want something like this to be able to quickly do that. That's the unit. Let's check it out and put it to use. Let's see how the Lasfit air inflator handles this task of pumping a tire from 20 up to 35 pounds. Now I want to state that I did not read the manual first before I started using this. I just started using it and plugging it together, which is a good acid test for me. So notice that we can set the PSI on that pump at 35. That's the auto shutoff. So what I'm doing is I'm now plugging it into the Schrader valve, and then what I have to do is I have to turn on the compressor. So you can see it's set for 20 pounds right now. It's detecting the PSI of the tire, and I've turned on the pump, and now you can see the PSI slowly rising. If you can look carefully on there, I know it's difficult to see with the glare, but you can see the PSI slowly rising. And eventually it's going to hit our 35 PSI cutoff point, which is right there. The pump shuts off and the inflation is done. It took me 3 minutes and 25 seconds to air the tire up from 20 to 35 PSI using this Lasfit air inflator. It's not as fast as the true air compressor, but far more convenient. The pump did get quite warm during the operation of this one tire, and it cost about 25% of the battery capacity to air up one tire from 20 to 35 PSI. I did not test getting through 4 tires on this test as I originally stated, but it would be tight. If you needed to move that much air in that short a period of time, you're probably better off using the 12-volt cord instead of the internal battery to power this air inflator. When it's done, it tucks neatly back into its storage case, awaiting a recharge. Even if you forget to recharge the battery, the 12-volt cigarette lighter plug will save you. There are 2 more features that I noticed after the fact. Now, admittedly, I am terrible about reading manuals before I use something. I just usually dive right in and start using something. And if it's designed well, it doesn't really require all that much reading. It's usually fairly intuitive. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on the unit, and you can see the familiar, you can see the battery readout here, you can see the PSI, auto shutoff detection. It's detecting 0 PSI right now. I've got nothing plugged into it. But here's a cool feature. This little push button up here turns on a light. And so while you're trying to pump up the tire and do all that stuff, wouldn't it be nice to have a flashlight right there? What a cool feature. And actually there's different forms of lighting that you can choose to get somebody's attention. If you're on the side of the road trying to air up a tire, how dangerous is that? So this light can actually save your life. So that's one feature I thought was cool. The second feature Considering that's got a pretty substantial battery inside this thing, has anybody ever plugged in a USB-A correctly the first time? I don't think it ever has happened. So you can actually use this as an emergency battery. So if we want to set this up, boom, it's charging my phone now. So you can use this not only as the tire inflator, but also as a emergency battery with a pretty substantial capacity. A couple of cool features. Well, there's my air compressor comparison. If I've learned nothing else from this exercise, it's that the universal Chinese air compressor may not work to pump up your tire. Now, maybe there was something wrong with mine. That compressor would be hard-pressed to inflate a basketball the way it was working. So make sure that if you have one of those, that it's going to work for you. Now, if you want to take the step forward to get into something better like a Lasfit, I've got a couple of resources in the description below where you can pick one of these up at a discount versus the street price. So I hope you check that out, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.